I'm Amanda McKay, host of GameTrailers.com, and you're watching CoinOpTV. Hey guys, I'm Cindy San Luis with another exciting episode of CoinOpTV. In this show, we'll take a look at 3 arcade gaming champs from all over, like Greg Bond, who excels at Mappy, and Robert Mruczek, who's no Padawan to Star Wars. But first, let's check in with Mark Robichek at California Extreme, who was featured in Life magazine's 1983 coverage of top gamers and is amazing at Frogger.
My claim to fame at Frogger came back in 1982, where there was a competition between California and North Carolina. And at that competition, there were 20 of the best players from California pitted against the 20 players in North Carolina at a kind of a one-to-one game competition. Mm-hmm. And I was the California player on Frogger. And that was where me and my worthy opponent went back and forth, breaking the world record 4 times that weekend. And on the last day of that tournament, I managed to get the score that held for 23 years. It was broken finally last year, but 442,330.
Wow. Can you give me your best rendition of the theme music?
Da 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Very cool, very cool. So why Frogger? You like to cross the street or something?
Well, I was always a fan of games that were fun and simple. I think that today's industry has really lost a lot of that. But you can't get much simpler than the Frogger controls. It was one joystick and no buttons. And today people wouldn't conceive of a game that had that small number of controls. Mm-hmm. But what you had to do with that control was really strategize, plan, be careful. And there are a lot of bad things out there. If you touched anything wrong, you would die. And so, basically, you're in avoidance mode. The frog was not the aggressor; he was simply trying to survive.
Very cool. So, what are some of the other games that you're really good at?
Well, Pengo, which to this day is my favorite game of all time, is another game. Again, a very similar theme, where you're the guy just trying to dodge the bad guys, and you don't shoot at them. You simply try to avoid them and squash them with ice blocks. Mm-hmm. But Pengo is one of my favorites, and right here at this California Extreme, there's Crazy Climber, which is also one of my all-time favorite games.
Okay, now Crazy Climber, I'm a huge Crazy Climber fan.
Really?
I get up to that 4th board and I'm dust every time. Give me some. Can you run me through the 4 levels and give me like a brief tip for each level to help me survive?
Sure. Well, the first level, basically don't die. Simple as that. First level doesn't have any of the difficult enemies. It just has the guys throwing pots out the windows. It has the bird who tries to drop stuff on you, and it has the ape. And really, there's nothing very difficult there. So I'm always very disappointed if I die in the first level. In fact, almost to the point where I kill the game off and start over. But once you start level 2, that's when you start having the toughest of the enemies, which is the girders. The girders, generally you just try to avoid them. And once in a while you get lucky. And if you're in the crouch position on a shelf, mm-hmm. or on a windowsill, you may actually be able to survive one girder hitting you. But the best strategy is to avoid them completely. Okay. Then you get up to like level 3, and you start having the sign that drops slowly, the Crazy Climber sign. And in the level 4, you kind of have the whole mix of everything. You have the bird, the windows, the girders, and the sign, which is what, like I said, makes it very difficult. And what's unique about level 4 is that it has a potential of being impossible. When you choose like a little 2-lane path to get to the roof of the building, the sign may block both of those lanes, in which case you cannot survive. So you always want to have at least one life accumulated when you hit the 4th building.
Yeah, every time I'm on the 4th level, it's like I don't know which side to pick. Is there any sort of ratio on the right or the left when the sign comes down to kill you?
Well, today I picked the way I usually go, which is the left, and for some reason it seems to work a little better for me. And I did manage to get to the top of building 4 today, just about 2 hours ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. I'll have to see you in action. Maybe I can pick up some tips and stuff. What do you think of coming out to shows like California Extreme and Fun Spot? How do you feel when you meet some other gamers? What's the whole vibe?
Well, I think the vibe is really appreciating the classic games. And as opposed to what I call today's market, you go to the arcade today, you see racing games, fighting games, dancing games, and not much else. To me, people say, okay, that's what people like, we'll make more of the same. Right? Well, a show like this, you get the games that were truly different. They were the first of their kind. Other favorites of mine, Berserk, Tutankhamun, Crazy Climber, games that just simply are not like anything that's out either since or before.
Now let's head over to New Hampshire for the Fun Spot tournament, where Todd Rogers had a chance to sit down with Robert Mruczek, who is the master of Star Wars and a head referee for Twin Galaxies.
Okay, Robert, what records do you hold, and what are your plans for your future, if there's any different games that you hold records on?
Well, I currently hold a couple of major arcade records. I hold the world's record on Scramble. I hold the world's record on Star Wars on marathon settings. I've got a lot of second, third, and fourth place records all over the place, home console as well as arcade. In total, I've got about 57 records where another participant has a record, has a submission on the same game. I've got about 400 records, which includes 350 where I'm the sole record holder, and then I have various submissions across the board on other titles.
So, Robert, tell me, at this competition here, what is your favorite game, and what do you think that you might be picking up next to that you're going to master on?
My favorite game I donated this year is Indiana Jones. I'm going to try to pick my score up to the 500,000-600,000 level and see how it goes from there.
And who do you think your strongest competition for opponent would be at this event?
Darren Harris, who I believe can get over 1 million right now once he gets back into his old groove again.
Tell us a word of advice that you can offer to the viewing public that are not reached your caliber of playing on Star Wars. What can you offer them that can enhance their game playing abilities?
I'm going to offer the following tips. I'm not going to give away my deepest, darkest secrets, but here you go. TIE fighter scene. Secret number 1, watch the star patterns. If you really learn the game well, you could predict where the TIE fighter is going to come out, even though it's off the screen. I can do this, and I'm going to make players think that like I can predict where they're coming out. I can't. I know where they're coming out, even though I don't see them. Tip number 2 is the towers. A lot of players are going to feel they absolutely have to knock out all the towers to get the big bonus. There's one tower pattern that's harder than the others, and to this day I can't consistently get it every single time. My tip to them in the tower pattern is, if you don't think you're going to make it, don't force yourself. Your shields are more important. When it comes to the trench, I'm going to give you a couple of tips. Tip number 1 is the secret to the trench is not necessarily just negotiating the obstacles. It's also controlling when the fireballs come out. Only the central part of your cursor can get hit by a wall in the trench. So you can graze the walls of the trench up to a certain point. But the more important thing is luring the fireballs out into the right area. If you know, based on the trench pattern coming up ahead, that you're about to come into a pattern where you have to first go to the lower left and then go to the upper right, the last thing you want is fireballs blocking your way in the lower left. So you lure them to a different section before you actually get there. This way it's smooth sailing through the tougher sections of the trench.
And Robert, tell us about the bounties that you placed up, and what inspired you to develop these bounties for players to be competitive on?
Billy Mitchell, one of the foremost leaders in gaming, he started a series of bounties close to 5 or 6 years ago, in which he wanted to bring out the best in gamers and pump the scores up on certain tried and true classics to the 1 million point level. I liked the idea so much I expanded on it to include titles that I personally found enjoyable and records that I wanted to see broken for one reason or another. Records that I myself couldn't do or that I thought were doable but just no one invested the time into it.
And now let's check in with Danielle at Fun Spot, who had a chance to speak with Maketrax and Mappy world record holder Greg Bond.
Greg is going to tell us a little bit about this game and some tips on it.
Okay, well, there's 10 objects on the board, and you have to pick up all 10 of the objects before the timer runs out. The game's not really on a timer, it's a coin that comes out, and you have to get the 10 objects off the board. You get chased by cats, you get chased by one fat cat, and there's microwave doors that you can use to kill the enemies and swoop them up.
What's it like being here in this tournament with all the other gamers and speaking with them and sharing tips and skills? What's it like for you, the whole experience?
Oh, it's awesome because you get all the record holders that come, and there's probably 50 or 60 people in here that have a record on a different game. Maybe they have 2. So you get together with them and you swap techniques and you swap tricks with them and stuff like that.
So you're not holding them all for yourself, you're sharing them?
Well,
what if someone beats it?
If someone beats it, then I'd have to go back and try to beat it. But yeah, we're pretty good about that. Most of the guys here, if they have a record on something and you want to learn how to play the game, they'll show you. They'll teach you.
that wraps up another exciting episode of CoinOpTV. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.